Oh, I love Cox. Oh, yeah. Yummy, yummy, yumskis. I love it. Jeremy Burton, Mike Owens are both here. I'm Adrian Fedke. We're here to talk about a little Fletcher Cox today. Apparently, Howard Eskin reported that he turned down a $60 million guaranteed offer from the Eagles. Could have been worth up to $100 million. And then Cox's agent came on WIP and ripped Howard, and he wanted to get the boxing gloves on. So a lot of shenanigans going on, and thank God, because we have something to talk about for this show.
Yeah, well, you can always leave it up to the mink coat wearing Howard Eskin to really stir things up here in Philadelphia. So, yeah, I mean, Eskin threw out this number of like 60 million guaranteed that Cox reportedly turned down, and then Cox's agent was not happy about this, so he kind of went on a rampage on the radio, really attacking Howard Eskin. Then the more you look into it, people are saying that, maybe Eskin was right, and then there's also a chance that Cox's agent was right. So this is a time of year where you get these type of rumors. So, who really knows what's true, but we're going to talk about it today.
Howard, one of the things he always calls people on the radio, he would call Todd France a total nitwit. All right, and that would be what he would call him. That's his phrase when he calls someone an idiot or whatever. I mean, yeah, they both could have been, telling the truth in a certain sense. I mean, Todd France, Cox's agent, worded it, well to defend himself, saying that $60 million guaranteed. It's kind of like quote unquote guaranteed. It's broken down to a year-to-year basis, and as long as Cox is on the roster, he gets that guaranteed money every year plus his salary. So in a way, maybe Howard has great sources. He could very well be right, and Todd France very well may be right as well. So it's kind of fun little back and forth. I would love to see him duke it out. Howard thinks he's a total badass, and he would probably get his ass beat.
Oh, definitely. I would have all of my money on Todd, without a doubt, absolutely. So we'll deal with the Howard Eskin report first, and just a quote here on the reportedly turned down $60 million guaranteed offer. Would have been, like I said, $100 million total, basically. So here we go. Here's what Eskin said. This is ridiculous because Fletcher Cox, a lot of these guys listen too much to their agent. His agent is Todd France. The Eagles, I've been told, have offered him $60 million guaranteed. Now, the contract would be over $100 million, but Todd France has told Fletcher Cox not to accept that, and that's ridiculous because the Eagles could have his rights for 3 years. The year the contract left this year, they can franchise him 2 more years, $60 million guaranteed, and Fletcher Cox is not a guy that spends a lot of money, but Todd France represents other defensive linemen, and people believe this in football, that he's trying to get unbelievable deal for Fletcher Cox, so his other players' scale of salary would increase, and he'd use this to try to get those guys more money. It's ridiculous that Fletcher Cox has not signed a contract which guarantees him over $60 million. And a couple years ago, he had some back issues, and I mean, any player can go down, so that's a problem. The Eagles have offered him a lot of money, and his agent, France, said nope, and I think he's using Fletcher Cox for his other players down the line. So, shots fired.
Yeah, Eskin fired his shots in there, and you never know with Eskin when he reports these things if they're true or not. So it's always sketchy with him. I really don't really trust Eskin that much, but it's possible. If it was $60 million guaranteed that Cox turned down, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I know Cox is a big guy, but turning down $60 million worth of food, worth of burgers, hot dogs, wings. I mean, geez, that's pretty impressive. I mean, maybe he wants $65 million guaranteed.
And if he doesn't want to sign it, hell, I'll take it. Sign me up. I can get a little beefier and play. Let's do it. I got the guns for it. But no, Todd France, I mean, he's an agent. He's a weaselly kind of businessman. I think I think Howard's right, and I think the way Todd France worded it is also right to a point. As long as Cox is on the roster, it's how the guarantees work. But the agent is probably just trying to get the most money. He wants his cut. He wants the most possible. So that's what these businessmen do. They're weasels.
Yeah, and France has a large client list. I believe one of them is Marcel Darius, so he's got a couple of those defensive tackles. I'm trying to look right now to see who else he represents. I can't find anything, but I know Marcel Darius is one, and like the report said, he represents a lot of defensive linemen, defensive tackles. So there could be a lot of truth to that. Absolutely. I mean, right now the benchmark is Ndamukong Suh. He's got that huge deal there in Miami. So $100 million right now for Cox, even though he's well worth that money, maybe it's not that much considering what the market has changed. I mean, defensive tackle right now, the 4-3 D tackle, it's a lot more important than it was a couple years ago. And Cox is a guy that can penetrate, get into the backfield. So maybe he is worth more than $100 million. I don't know, but for me, Jesus Christ, if that is true, to turn down that kind of money, wow, bro.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Cox, too, is he's got a lot of leverage in this situation, which makes it really tough for the Eagles because, especially Jim Schwartz, he's really going to be relying on Fletcher Cox along that defensive line to get penetration this year. So, in the way that Cox has played this far in his NFL career, the guy is obviously deserving of big money. So it's possible that, Cox is going to do everything he can to get the best deal possible. And the other thing is, I think how Cox is looking at this is he's going to try to get a lot of this guaranteed money up front in the contract because he doesn't want it backloaded. So that $60 million guaranteed, it's possible that Cox maybe turned it down because it could have been backloaded, which is that's what Harry Roseman likes to do with the deals, is backload them.
Yeah, with our current cap situation after a busy offseason, it looks like we only have about $5.5 million going into this year. So doesn't look like it's going to happen this offseason, but luckily we have Cox under control for the 2016 season, and we can also franchise tag him for 2 years at the going rate for the top few defensive tackles in the league. So we have him technically through 2017 and 18 if we decide to franchise tag him twice, but obviously we want him long term. He's a cornerstone of our defense. He's you got to win the battle in the trenches on the offensive defensive side. I always say that if you want to have a winning formula. So he's a huge part, and if he's not on our team for the next 8 to 10 years, I will be very, very upset.
And he's clearly very confident in his ability to turn that kind of money down because he's basically entering the prime of his career. He hasn't even seen the best years yet, and he's already a stud muffin. So and under Jim Schwartz, we've seen what Jim Schwartz has done with defensive tackles. Albert Hainsworth, perfect example. So he's going to dominate, and he's going to put up ridiculous numbers. So, in some ways, as crazy as it does sound, turning down that kind of money, it may not be so crazy.
Yeah, and, when you look at this from the Eagles' standpoint, they really want to get, Cox under a contract this year because, with the money just continuing to go up, the salary cap going up each year, these guys are just getting bigger and bigger contracts. So the Eagles really don't want to wait in this situation because as the years go on, they're just going to have to, pay Cox a bigger and bigger contract. So hopefully they can get it out of the way this year so we don't have to worry about this going into the next few years.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's just about to enter the prime of his career in a great defensive fit for him. I think the agent was definitely in his ear saying, $60 million guaranteed, you can get $75 million guaranteed. You are potentially the number one tackle in the league. Say he has a ridiculous year under Jim Schwartz this year. Better than any year. I don't know who's a Hall of Fame defensive tackle. Warren Sapp.
10 sacks or something.
Yeah, it's 10 sacks, just how many tackles for losses, forced fumbles, whatever. And yeah, he could very well be worth more than 60. So maybe it's smart for him from a financial sense. But I just want to lock him down, man. I want this to be over with.
Yeah, I mean, the 60 million guaranteed, if the report is true, it would have tied Darius for the most in the league in terms of the guaranteed money. Darius he signed, I believe it was before the start of last year. He accepted a 6-year, $96.5 million contract. So, and Ndamukong Suh is the highest one in the league at defensive tackle. He's got 6 years, $114 million. So that is just insane there. I'm going to try to look up J.J. Watt real quick. So you guys go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's why. I mean, it's money. I mean, it's just outrageous with these guys. And we'll talk about J.J. Watt. I mean, that guy's just not human.
There you go. 6 years, $100 million, $51 million guaranteed. I mean, these guys have egos, So Fletcher Cox, he thinks he might be the best one in the league, and he wants to get paid like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I think you got the quotes from his agent there too.
Yeah. All right, I'll read them off now. Let's see. All right, so here we go. This is from a radio interview, WIP. So he shot back at Howard, wanted to get the boxing gloves on. For Howard Eskin to come out and say how insane it is and how ridiculous it is, and then to have a personal attack on me when I literally don't know if I've ever talked to the guy, okay. And if it was, it's got to be years and years and years, and it surely wasn't about this. I think it's unfair to myself. I think it's unfair to Fletcher Cox to put out that type of misinformation. And you know what else it's unfair to? The fans, because you're misleading your Philly fan base. To me, it's just wrong, careless, and bad reporting. That's my opinion because I actually know the facts. To say a contract is worth whatever I'm going to use, $60 million guaranteed, and a certain amount of it he gets today, but the next year he gets some if he's on the roster is guaranteed, and the next year he gets it guaranteed if he's on the roster then, and then the next year he gets it if he's on the roster. Those are year-to-year guarantees. It's something Jeremy was talking about earlier. Any person that's got any intelligence to the football business will write and say that really isn't X amount guaranteed because the team can do what? Get rid of the guy and cut him at any point, and that quote-unquote guaranteed money of the player never really receives. So obviously that's a fair point from France. Guaranteed money not necessarily always as guaranteed as it's made out to be. It's not something, where you get $60 million guaranteed right up front and, you get it all. You don't get it all. It's all kind of spread out. And before the show, Mike gave a great example about Donovan McNabb with the Redskins, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact numbers were on McNabb's contract when he did the deal with the Redskins, but it was a pretty big deal, pretty outrageous deal, and McNabb was supposed to get a lot of guaranteed money, and well, he really didn't get much of that guaranteed money. He maybe only ended up getting about 5 or 10% of that guaranteed money. So that's why Cox's agent is talking here, where the guaranteed money can be spread out over different years. So that's why it's possible that Cox maybe did turn down this offer because it was probably backloaded in guaranteed money, and Cox is going to want it more guaranteed up front.
Yeah, I mean, any player will want more up front, but certain situations like our salary cap situation might not really allow for that. And we all know how Howie loves to backload the contract, so it makes sense. And that's kind of funny what you mentioned with McNabb and the deal he got when we traded him to the Redskins back in 2009 when he was already 31 years old, at least 32, and you didn't see hardly any of that. So that Todd France's point is valid. And with the whole reporting, you never know what to believe from reporters, honestly. Even Fletcher Cox tweeted out back in February, said, can the reporters please stop this nonsense? Nothing is true what they're reporting about the contract situation. It's sad. That's what he said personally. So, I mean, I think he wants to get a deal done as much as all of us fans and as much as the team does because of all this backlash and nonsense that comes with these reports. So, I think he wants to get it done just as much as we do, and I hope it does.
Yeah, that's something I continually say. I don't trust any reports. I don't trust anything. And it's funny that I say that because now I'm in a position where I write for Philly Influencer and I talk about reports and all that bullshit. So I report on bullshit most of the time. So there you go. Most of it's not even like true, but I do it anyway. But I wanted to talk about the potential, contract, looking ahead because right now there's pretty much no way this extension can get done before this offseason is over. There's just no way. The Eagles right now, their salary cap situation for next season, let's see. I believe it's only, they have $5.4 billion of cap space for 2017, which, wow, by far the least amount in the league. Cowboys are 31st with $15.4 million. So we are $10 million behind. So in order to even get this Cox deal done, gonna have to cut some players to make shit happen. And obviously another reason why this deal can't get done this offseason, you're gonna have to pay these draft picks. And you're gonna need say $5, $6, $7 million for that. So there might even be more cuts coming on the Eagles front. So cash strapped, not a lot of money. Unless Howie works some serious magic, this isn't getting done. And if we keep talking about, them not wanting to do this deal because of the backloaded situation, it's definitely not going to get done this offseason.
Yeah, well, I think the more this thing prolongs as we head into the draft here, I think this is really where I start to worry because the reports have come out that the Eagles are possibly trying to trade up to number 1. Now, if you're the Titans, there's one guy on the Eagles that you're going to want, and that's Fletcher Cox. Now, I don't know what the Eagles are thinking, but if I was the Titans, the only way I would probably do the deal is if Cox was involved. So, but the issue is too, where I don't think Cox would be involved in the deal is because you have to look at it from the other team too. The other team that knows that they're going to have to pay Cox a huge contract eventually. So it all evens out. But I know that we need Cox on this team, and he can't be involved in any trades for trying to move up.
And well, we hope that the salary cap goes up again for the following offseason as it did this year to give us a little bit more space. But yeah, we are a little strapped for cash, and all these backloaded deals. If we're so strapped for cash, will come back to haunt us as though all these players that we sign will make more money as the years go on. So, I don't think it's gonna. I wish it would, but I just don't see us making it happen this offseason unless you're right, Howie pulls some sort of magic. But don't count him out, in doing a little bit of Houdini because you saw him move up from 13 to 8 with the Miami trade and get rid of Maxwell's bad contract. So you never know what Howie's capable of.
I know he's an idiot. So it's fuck Howie.
Get one in there. There it is. I knew it was coming.
I got one in.
Fuck Howie came. There it is.
I got one into the show. So there you go. So I wanted to talk about this real quick before anything else. So Adam Schefter was on, I guess, WIP. I don't know if it was the Fanatic or WIP, one of those two. And he was talking about how Cox's trade value might not be as much as you might think because of the fact that you got to pay him. So it's not like he's got like a couple. I mean, obviously the franchise tags and all that, but it's not like he's this young guy anymore, and he's at the end of his rookie deal basically. So the value isn't as much as you'd expect. So, but still, he speculated like in a trade it would be Cox, and then you switch the first rounders, and that's it. But I mean, God, no, don't even think about trading him for Carson Wentz. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you got to worry here as we get towards the draft and Cox still not being locked up because you don't want to get the draft day, and then all of a sudden the Eagles are trading Cox to move up to number 1. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. So I think we're all in agreement that Cox needs to be here. Somehow the Eagles got to get it done. I mean, we all hope it's sooner rather than later, but as long as Cox is still on this roster when the season begins, I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah, I don't think Cox is going anywhere. There's so much potential he has to even have literally his best year could be this upcoming year for as much of a stud he's been the past couple of years. I mean, he's got his defensive line coach from college back with him. He's got Jim Schwartz who knows how to use him. We've seen what he's done with D tackles, Dominic Sue and Albert Hainsworth. So I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I think he loves Philly. We're the team that drafted him. We're the team that loves him. We all love him. Let's keep Cox. He ain't going anywhere.
Let's keep Cox. I mean, to have Cox and a Peters and a Lane Johnson, so you got Johnson, Cox, and Peters all on the same team. We could start a Porto company.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're really good there. Oh, man, yeah. We'll see. I mean, good old Cox. I mean, we got to keep the guy. It comes down to that, really.
Yeah.
I honestly think we're staying at 8. I don't think we're going to move up. I just think it makes too much sense to keep all our assets and future first rounders and stuff like that. We're going to have a great player available at 8. And I think we're fine with Sam and Chase for this year. We'll still take a flyer on like a 3rd round quarterback like a Mr. Hackenberg or Dak Prescott or whatever. So I think that's fine. Give me Miles Jack, Vernon Hargraves, or Ezekiel Elliott. I'll be happy at 8. That's fine.
Well, I mean, you are correct. I mean, the odds are slim that we're going to trade up to number 1. Even if the Eagles are desperately trying to climb up there, it's still pretty slim. There's going to be other teams tossing up there, and if you're the Titans, you're probably going to want to not too far back, because let's say the Cowboys like Carson Wentz, and you move back to 4, and at 4 at least you still get like a Miles Jack, you could get a Joey Bosa, you can get maybe even possibly Laramie Tunsil. So and then you got Jalen Ramsey possibly as well. But moving back to 8, I mean, all of a sudden it goes from that to like Hargraves and Elliott and like stuff like that. So not as great for Tennessee. So yeah, the odds are slim. Even though I think we're definitely going to try to get up there. But there's that. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about before we get out of here, didn't want to make this a long show today. I wrote something today on Ezekiel Elliott, and Jason LaConfora reported that the Eagles are in love with him, and they're probably going to draft him if they stay at 8. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things with Elliott where I was initially kind of against it because I thought that there were some better options for the Eagles at that spot. Really, Stanley was really the guy that I was targeting at 8, but it seems like Stanley might fall a little bit here, and he could possibly fall out of the top 10. So I'm really at the point where I would be fine with Elliott. My first pick is going to be Hargraves, but if Hargraves isn't there, then I think, you can't go wrong with Elliott. Be a great fit for the scheme, power running back. It would be exactly what Doug Peterson needs. Only thing that you would have to worry about Elliott is kind of his off-the-field behavior. Different reports out there about him and Bosa, doing some drugs and stuff. They are college kids, but you hope that they don't turn into a Johnny Manziel type of guy in the NFL. So that's where you have to worry about with Elliott. But, I mean, the guy is a freaking horse. He's just a beast.
Pop the molly up, sweat. Woo!
Well, what else are college kids going to do in Ohio? You're going to do some drugs, man, and find some girls. Oh, that's what you do. I miss college so much. But
What are you trying to say, Jeremy?
um, anyway, no, Zeke, I mean, he could be, the next best thing since, Adrian Peterson, that kind of impactful player. I mean, he rushed for over 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns last year. I mean, he's a beast. He'll fit Doug P's system. He runs over people. He's strong and he's fast. He's exactly what you want in a running back and a workhorse bell cow running back. And we brought him in for a pre-draft workout today. So they obviously, like Adrian said, they love him. Could definitely see it at 8. I would be fine with it. Just like Mike said, I would love to have a Hargraves or a Miles Jack. Miles Jack most likely won't be there, but if I'm between Hargraves and Zeke, I'll be happy with both. I would love the defensive back. If him and Rowe, I've said this before, turn into our stud corners for the next, 8 to 10 years, they can be our Vincent and Taylor, our Shepard and Brown, So that's exciting. And defenses, will be huge under Jim Schwartz. But, yeah, I mean, Zeke, he can be a real difference maker in our offense, and it'll open up the passing game as well, which is huge, having such an impact running back there.
Yeah, I am 100% in agreement with Mike. So whatever you just heard from him, I don't really have to repeat myself. But here's what I'll say about Ronnie Stanley, because Ronnie Stanley was the reason why I was, kind of didn't want Elliott at first. But, well, what happened with Stanley is this. So he put on a little weight, to try to fit the model of a tackle in the NFL. And he put on some weight. And he looked real clumsy at the combine. He looked real bad. It wasn't good at all. And because he and Tunsil at a point were like neck and neck with each other. And now Tunsil is just completely shot ahead. And Stanley's going down. And when you watch Stanley on tape, the more and more I watch him, the less and less I like him. I don't see the fire out there. I see laziness. I'm starting to get really, really skeptical about him, and I'm starting to think that he might be a bust. So if you got to go with your gut on these things, and my gut is saying no to him now. So Vernon Hargraves is the guy I want. I think he's a stud. I think he's like a hybrid of Joe Hayden / Patrick Peterson. I would love him. I mean, obviously in a division, you got Odell Beckham, you got Des Bryant. You need a shutdown corner, so he's the number one guy that I want. But Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, I'm fine with it because he fits the offense. I don't need to explain it any further. Mike said it perfectly, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm just another guy to watch out for if the Eagles don't go with Elliott in the first round. The guy that I really like, if we could get him in the third round, would be Kenneth Dixon from Louisiana Tech. He's a guy that's he has a similar build to Elliott. They're both 6 foot. They're around the same weight. The only thing with Elliott is Elliott's faster. Kenneth Dixon ran a 4.58 in his 40 time, and then you have Elliott who ran a 4.47. So obviously Elliott is definitely the better back. But Dixon is a guy that you could possibly get in the third round and would be a really good addition to the team if you could fill another hole in the first round. Where I hesitate with Elliott is anymore in the NFL with these running backs, man, the shelf life is so limited that you're only going to get a good, maybe 4 or 5 years out of them, and then after that, they're pretty much done. So that's where it's tough for me to pick a running back in the first round. That's why I think if the Eagles had a guy like Hargraves that's sitting there, I think they got to go with him over Elliott. But I wouldn't be opposed to Elliott if he's the only guy that's there out of the guys that I like.
Yeah, if we pass on Elliott, there are we've seen a lot of mid-round picks, have great impacts on teams. Like look at David Johnson last year. They snagged him, I believe, in the third round, and he's now their franchise, running back. He's gonna be their starter. He does it all, passing game, running game. He was dynamic. Anyone who picked him up in fantasy last year knows what I'm talking about. And so, Yeah, I mean, obviously Hargraves would be great to have. I'll be happy with either one. But maybe Zeke is the exception to the rule. That with the shelf life of only 5 years. I mean, Adrian Peterson's been around a lot longer than that, and he's still great impactful player. You've seen great running backs do it for years. So yeah, the game's changed a little bit since back in the days of Walter Payton, Terrell Davis, Emmitt Smith, all those guys. But still, maybe he is the exception. He is a specimen, and maybe he's this can't miss running back prospect that will go for 10 plus years. And who knows? Maybe he'll be in the same state as his alma mater and have a bust in Canton one day. You never know. You really never know.
Well, you talk about the exception, and when you talk about the exception, if you are the exception, then that means that you can build the offense around you. And obviously the Eagles are stuck in a position where they might not be able to obtain a franchise quarterback. So maybe you can build your offense around Ezekiel Elliott, and if he is this stud that many project him to be, then all of a sudden you may not need that great quarterback, especially if you have a great defense. So that's kind of the logic that I have for that. And speaking about Kenneth Dixon, the reason why I love him is his pass-catching ability. And obviously the Eagles, with Doug Peterson, this West Coast style that they're going to run, they like to utilize running backs in the backfield. So obviously we've seen the past, Deuce Staley, Brian Westbrook. So you got to use your backs in the backfield, and he would be a perfect fit for that. So there's that. All right. I guess we'll just kind of wrap things up here. I didn't want to go too long on this. We're half an hour in, so we're actually going a little longer than I thought. So I guess we'll end it with final thoughts, unless there's something else you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think final thoughts are good. So, I don't know what I've been drinking, but I think the Eagles they're gonna really make a big move here in the draft. I don't know why I think this is gonna happen, but I think that Roseman is coming out to make a big statement in this draft, and I think he's going to do everything he can to get up to that number one spot. Now, it might upset some fans, but I think he's going to give up a significant amount of picks to get up there. I just have a feeling that the Eagles really like Carson Wentz a lot, and they're dying to get a franchise quarterback in here. So that's my gut feeling right now, and I think that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to give it all they can to get up to that number one spot.
I mean, that would make for Nick's roast beef will erupt next 2 Thursdays from now if the draft commences and all of a sudden the Eagles are on the clock. A trade has happened. Like.
Everybody's going to run to the bar for a drink.
Shots all around. Adrian, Jack Daniels, Tennessee Fire.
Yes.
No, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? We all have our gut feelings, and maybe you can share some of that stuff you're drinking, Mike, and maybe it'll put us on our ass. We'll see. But my final thought is to wish rest in peace to Mr. Ed Snyder, the founder of the Flyers. He's been around for 50 years on our team. We're gonna play for him. We have a big game tomorrow night. Let's take the Caps down. Ovechkin doesn't scare me. Just don't make any stupid mistakes and give up power play goals because he's a stud on the power plays. He's scary. But we've been playing playoff hockey for over a month now, fighting for this just to get in. And Caps have been clinched for about a month, and all the pressure's on them. I like the underdog position, split one in these first two and come back home at least 1-1, and, we'll get the home ice back. So I'm rooting for those Flyers. Let's get a little run for Ed. Do it for Ed.
Win it for Ed. Oh, we have a game tomorrow. Super pumped about it. Can't wait. So, yeah, I have joined the Flyers bandwagon. I'm on it. I've jumped on it. I'm going to watch some hockey. Yes, sir. So, all right. So to close the show, who wins the series? How many games? And then we'll get out. Just real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm going with the Flyers, and I'm going with the Flyers in 6 actually. I think the Flyers they've got a lot of motivation right now with the whole Ed Snyder him passing away. I think that the Flyers have the Capitals number, and I believe if you talk to the diehard hockey fans in Washington, they have the same feeling. They're a bit afraid of the Flyers because they know that the Flyers have their number a little bit here. Only issue that the Flyers are going to run into is I think they're going to beat the Cats, but after that they have to play Pittsburgh. I think that's where the run ends because the Penguins have our number. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hard-fought, great back-and-forth series. I think it's going to be 1-1 after 2. I think it's going to be 2-2 after 4. I think it's going to be 3-3 after 6. And I think the Flyers are going to take it in 7. So that's my prediction.
All right. So 4 out of the 6 people on this show have picked the Flyers. So obviously no bias whatsoever on this show. You could never tell that we are Flyers fans. As for me, I've got the Capitals in 6.
Oh man, you're joining the damn Russian.
Hey, now you're gonna get me started. Fuck Russia.
How could you support the Russian?
He's Ukrainian. How can you support the Russian? It's a violation.
Well, reverse psychology.
Your Yuki heritage.
Yeah. Well. If you guys think I hate Howie Roseman, Vladimir Putin can suck my dick.
Pedestine, Adrian.
You did not just... I can't believe you know some Ukrainian. That is insane. You just said stop it to me in Ukrainian.
I know.
Pedestine.
Trash?
Choish. To this nash you Jeremy. To this
Okay, I don't know what you said.
I just said you don't know shit. All right, we're ending this show. 4 out of 6 people on the Bitter Birds have picked the Flyers. That means they're going to win. What do I know? We're out of here. Mike Owens, Jeremy Burton, and his muscles are also going to leave. I'm Adrian Fedke. Later.
Peace out.